It's 6 o'clock and the Kerrville City Council is in session. Councilmember Clarkson will lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand.
Please bow with me. Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together. We thank you for the opportunity to express ourselves and our opinions, and then to make decisions for our community. We thank you for those that are here today, and we pray that you give us the guidance and direction we need to move our city forward now and in the future. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you will be speaking to an issue tonight or to the Citizens Forum, if you will please sign one of the speakers' forms and get that to the city secretary. Also remember that you should be recognized before speaking, and when you're speaking, if you will come to the podium here and give us name and your residence. Thank you. Okay.
Announcements of community interest. Say hello to everyone tonight. We always have about three announcements here. The first one, very good news for the city yesterday. The Texas Water Development Board on Monday approved a $1 million disaster recovery grant for the City of Kerrville. The city will use the grant to finance planning, acquisition, design, and construction costs associated with damages related to the recently constructed aerial pipe bridge located near Loop 534 Guadalupe River intersection. Y'all will remember that was damaged in the flooding last fall, so it's real good news. We're going to get some money back and be able to go work on that. We released a press release on that late this afternoon, so if you have some questions on that, there's some more information.
Yay.
Next Thursday is the Fourth on the River, and we'll be talking about from Fourth on the River group later on tonight. But it's the annual celebration Thursday, July 4th at Louise Hayes Park. It's a free event. It begins at 2 o'clock, a number of acts during the afternoon, and then would be followed by the largest fireworks display in the Hill Country at 9:30. Fireworks are once again sponsored by Mamacita's, so we want to say a big thank you to them. And also a reminder to people who own animals that animals and fireworks don't go together well. So please look out, especially for your pets that night. And finally, the City of Kerrville's Parks and Recreation Department, they kick off their annual Movies in the Park series this Friday with a special dive-in movie at the Olympic pool. Not in the park, but at the pool. The featured film is Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation. That begins at 9 o'clock or dark, whichever one comes first. And as always, admission is free. As you can see, we have quite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies after that will be in the two different parks, Louise Hayes Park and Kerrville Shriner Park. But great event, great start for the summer. So if you want to come out, was that Friday night or Saturday night?
Next Friday.
Next Friday night, yeah. Enjoy that. That's a lot of fun.
Any other notices about items of community interest? This is not items related to the agenda, but anything else?
I think we should mention the mobile app that the city has just put in place for events. And go to cityofkerrville.com.
You go to your smartphone and just the
App Store.
Type in City of Kerrville.
That's great.
It connects you to anything you want to do, departments or employees or
Recording
Schedules.
issue, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
calendars.
Okay, visitors, Citizens Forum, if you're to fill out a speaker request form, give it to the city secretary, and the city council may not discuss or take any action on any item. May be that out of what is said in the Citizen Forum, something may be referred, but we don't respond to it. So, do we have some people to speak in the Citizens Forum?
Larissa, were you going to speak in the Citizens Forum?
Is that the point where I can make a request? Yes.
Okay, we have two. Susan Deininger.
Okay. All right.
Susan Deininger, 103 Turnberry Circle. Time's running. Okay, I just want to say President Trump has brought vitality and surplus to our economic life. You better vote for him again because we're spending like crazy. CIP lists several projects that are just for quality of life and tourists that are still being finished or being paid for with, as of yet, no substantial financial return on the investment. They are good for publicity, though. You are now wanting to underwrite the Arcadia Theater, a $2 million project, asking a $600,000
Ms. Deininger,
upfront.
I'm sorry. You're in
That's on the
this
subject?
forum, you are not to address items that are on the agenda. If you want to talk about the Arcadia, you can do that when it comes up.
All righty. Can I talk about EIC funds?
Yes.
They are being asked for, and those I understand are for industrial and manufacturing enterprises for bettering the economy and welfare. And we have to be careful where we give this money or it'll drain the EIC funds for real purposes. Meanwhile, 2 housing developments for workers and middle-income folks are on hold. One asking for a new RFP because somebody got a more lucrative opportunity is how I understand it. And according to the CIP, we're paying $25,000 for a study of housing gaps and strategies to address these gaps. I think this needs to be thought about. And my pet sadness was at the Juneteenth Carver Park, where a canopy over the children's playground would make it usable on hot days. Now it just burns the baby's buns. The water park there has no umbrellas over it for any shade, and there are no trees, 1 bench for parents supervising kids. The ballpark has stands sitting out there with no protection from the sun. That's a number 1 on the 2050 plan. And the sewer line that broke on Shriner Street last week, I think it was last week, it sounded from the newspaper report as though the fix was the minimum and waiting for more to break. Ms. Clarkson said she believes that the CC would control its spending, and she believed in the 2050 plan. We are waiting and watching. Thank you.
Okay, another speaker?
Larissa Anderson.
Hello, praise the Lord, everybody. I'm Larissa Anderson, and I'm with the Dream Team. And the reason I'm here today is because I wanted to request that the park fees be returned to the Dream Team due to the fact that the lights were not turned on for the Juneteenth Jamboree. As you all know, that neighborhood has been deemed as unsafe. So therefore, we had people kind of leaving when the lights did not come on. We had people that were coming across the park, and we saw them going back across the way because the lights did not come on. Now, you all know all of the problems that we had, and we've never paid. The city has always supported the Juneteenth. We've never paid $300 and something to hold, and we are a nonprofit organization. When I speak to you all, I spoke to you all, told you all that Dream Team was in support of your 2050 plan. I let you all know at that time that there are people there that I represent that don't have a problem, that you could speak to them and they are really ready to sell because their children are not coming back. And so therefore, but their homes are paid for and that they need, you can do some trading, do something for your people. The other thing is when I spoke to you, Mr. Blackburn, about the housing. There used to be a housing authority where there could be a complaint made if there was housing discrimination. Dream Team signed an agreement with Nations Bank at that time, and they gave us a grant that we taught home buyers education. They flew in their counselors and trained us in credit counseling. So therefore, when the people that came through those classes, they knew that they qualified for the loans for those homes. The other thing is, Dream Team was in Doyle School. We were put out when it was bought. And so therefore, we have not been able to operate. We all know that Doyle School does not represent, we call it the Carver community. So we know that the Doyle School does not represent that community because we were in the makeup when we had to relocate and get some other people relocated to that neighborhood because of what was going on in their neighborhood. I served on the board of Habitat to do that. So I was the one that put together the housing survey for the Shriner College students to do that. But Dream Team was not good enough for our name to go in the newspaper with the Shriner College. So therefore, we come to you, we talk to you, we tell you what the needs of our neighborhood is. And every time we come, it's always something. Now, I don't have a problem with what you all are doing. We're with it because we've never been able to see that community prosper like it has in the past. But we do have a problem with being hindered because we love who we are. We love you too. I was raised here, graduated from Tybee High School. So therefore, we always have so Doyle School represents the city. The city owns it, the city runs it, and they set the board over it. It does not represent that community. So with that, I'm saying, they've always told me, Larissa, if you want it over there, you put it over there for your people. So therefore, when we put it, we don't expect to be hindered. So we are requesting, because of the unsafe environment that the people were put in, that our park fees be refunded back to the Dream Team. And so therefore, as you all know me, I have no respect of persons. And I'm always on the side of the Lord. So I only know that what I do for God is going to last. So that's all I have to ask of you all today.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Danny Allman, if you'll come to the front, please. We could not make it as a city here without the citizen volunteers. We have over 100 local citizens involved in boards, commissions, so forth. And Danny Allman has served admirably as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, as an alternate member beginning October 2016. He was appointed as a regular member on April 11th, 2017, and he has served as chair since February 2019. And whereas Danny Allman has served faithfully and dutifully on said board, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, that Danny Allman be recognized for outstanding service as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and that on behalf of the citizens of Kerrville, as well as for ourselves individually, we wish to express our sincere appreciation for contributions to the city and the community, passed and approved this 25th day of June 2019. Danny, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for let's get it.
I told you you'd have to smile tonight.
And Danny's wife is here as well. Okay.
All
Thank you,
right.
baby.
Now you're famous. More famous.
All right. Now we come to the consent agenda to vote on all the items included unless someone wants to pull an item. So,
I'd like to pull item 4B, please.
okay. Item 4B is pulled. We have a motion regarding the rest of the items.
I'll move that we accept 4A, 4C, 4D, 4E, 4F, 4G, 4H.
I'll
Mayor?
second it. I think there's a speaker request in.
Oh,
I need to read in the ordinances.
you need what?
Read in the
Oh.
ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please, read in the ordinance.
I know, but they've moved one.
Yeah.
They pulled one. Ordinance, second reading, ordinance number 2019-15, an ordinance amending chapter 102, traffic and vehicles by adding a new section 102-119, operation prohibited within city limits exception to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas. The new section 102-119 to prohibit through truck traffic on specified streets, roadways, or highways within the city, and providing an exception, containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, providing a penalty, and providing other matters related to the subject. And you pulled 4B.
4B.
So I do not need to read that in.
No, they're gonna talk about it, so you can read it at that time.
Okay, also 4C, 4D, 4E, 4F, 4G, and 4H will be on the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
yeah. Got a motion,
You made
Ms.
a motion.
Eigner, and second by Gary Cochran. Okay, all in favor of those remaining items, would you, except for 4B, would you please let it be known by the raised hand? Okay, and it is 5-0. Okay, let's go back to the discussion of 4B.
Well, what I wanted to do was, at the last council meeting, there were some questions raised, and I was thankful that our city attorney gave us some clarification, but I thought because they were raised by the public, that if Mikey would be able to address the questions that were raised and the perspective from researching the answers to those questions.
Sure, let me have Shelley read the caption first.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That's all right.
Ordinance, second reading, ordinance number 2019-12. An ordinance amending in its entirety Chapter 10, alcoholic beverages of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas, regarding the city's authority over the sale of alcoholic beverages to include the process for the city's imposition and collection of fees, to prohibit sales within areas zoned for residential use, to prohibit sales within 300 feet of churches, public hospitals, schools, and child care facilities, and to adopt a variance process applicable to such distance requirement, containing a savings and severability clause, providing for an effective date, ordering publication, and providing other matters relating to the subject.
Okay, and as Councilmember Clarkson alluded to, there were a couple questions, 3 that were raised at the last council meeting, and the first question, as I recall, was what happens if an establishment has multiple permits or licenses from the state, and would that
That's, yes.
entity have to pay the city a fee for each? And so, yes, under the ordinance as written, they would, and that's how our current code reads as well. And I confirm with staff that they believe this is fair and objective way to apply our fees. Fees are a way that we recoup the costs of managing those regulations, and so they believe that's fair. And so we don't recommend any change to the ordinance based on that. There was a question regarding Section 10-2 and its use of residentially zoned areas, and should these areas be defined within this ordinance or within the zoning code. And this provision comes right out of state law, and so I try to capture that as specifically as I can. And you'll know, I think you do know, as going through the zoning code rewrite, that our current zoning code addresses this issue, as does the proposed zoning code that's still in a draft. And so, and this section also alludes to the fact that when you're going through this process, you need to look to the zoning code to find out which areas are residentially zoned. And so, again, staff doesn't recommend any change to this section. And then there's a question also about Section 10-4, and is it necessary, or does it really just restate state law? This is also in our current regulations, and as I brought it forward, I thought it could be reworded for clarity a bit, and so that's what I did. The hours are limited by state law, and so I'm just restating what is in state law, but don't lose sight of the fact that pursuant to state law, we have opted into a discretionary provision, which is to extend the hours of service until 2 a.m. on both Saturday and Sunday mornings. So again, we've done that currently, and so that's just being brought over from our current ordinance.
Thank you. Just one statement. I had 2 people in the community come directly to me and say, why is council trying to further restrict alcohol sales? So just as a clarity issue, the intent of the ordinance is to repeal and replace the entire ordinance. The restrictions to the alcohol distance were already in the code. What we're allowing for now is a variance process so that we can actually look at specific requests. So as far as the restriction of alcohol sales, the intent in this is not to further limit or restrict alcohol sales.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Okay, do we have a motion in regard to 5A?
I move that we.
4B.
4B.
4B, I'm sorry.
make a
I'd
motion.
already turned the page.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2019-12 on the second reading.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor, if you let it be known by the raised hand. Okay. At 6:20, we go into a public hearing, and I'm going to ask Ms. McLennan if she will read this into the record.
Ordinance number 2019-14, an ordinance creating a planned development district for R3 multifamily, retail trade 2, professional office, restaurant, general, and custom manufacturing on an approximately 58.74 acres, consisting of land out of the Joseph S. Anderson Survey number 141, abstract number 2, and the J.S. Sater Survey number 142, abstract number 290, within the City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, and generally located north of the intersection of Thompson Drive, Highway 98, and James Road, adopting a concept plan and conditions related to the development of said district, containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, establishing a penalty or fine not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof, ordering publication, and providing other matters relating to the subject. And we do have one citizen speaker signed up.
Okay, all right, Mr. Paxton.
Thank you, Mayor. As Ms. McInnes indicated, 2019-14 is a planned development district for a project known as the Landing at Thompson Road and James Road. There's a copy of the concept plan. As indicated, the proposed uses are custom manufacturing, internal greenbelt, private park, professional office, dedication of a public park, R3 multifamily residential, restaurants, and retail trade 2. There's some photographs of the property from Thompson Drive. There's some photographs down along Knapp Road and James Road. And point out some questions regarding the median and center turn lane along Thompson Drive. There is currently a median in place, which also has some drainage features from the TxDOT project. You can see that on the site plan. It's between the two curb cuts that they're proposing along Thompson Drive. Those permits have been approved by TxDOT. They did not require an acceleration or deceleration lanes based on their traffic impact studies they have completed. And you can vaguely see those medians in the center picture up top, and in the bottom left-hand picture, about halfway up the road where the hill starts to crest over is where that median starts. So it is internal to the property and internal to those curb cuts. The project is consistent with Kerrville 2050 plan as part of strategic catalyst area number 3. Development within the catalyst area should orient towards the river and consist of entertainment, mixed use, and multifamily development. The PDD concept plan is in concert with these goals from the comp plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommend it for your approval, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, council will consider questions, and the having just come out of a session earlier regarding drainage issues, you feel like the drainage issues are dealt with in this plan?
Yes, and then each individual site as it's developed will establish the drainage criteria for each project.
All right. Okay, do you have other questions of Mr. Paxton?
Again, on the, off of Thompson Road, you're saying there won't be access turns off of it.
There will be access, but there's not a acceleration or deceleration lane. So you won't have that right-hand turn lane coming in or out in addition to the current street design.
Okay. Do we think that's going to be sufficient?
That's a call into TxDOT purview, based on the
Okay.
traffic impact study that they
That's what
provided
they've
to
done.
TxDOT. It was
Okay.
not required.
We asked them to comment on that.
Mr. McDonald, I assume you signed a speaker's form.
I was told I didn't need to.
You, I keep forgetting that. This is a public hearing. Go ahead.
I'm Justin McDonald, 2956 Dry Hollow. We commissioned a traffic impact analysis through our civil engineer to determine just that question, Councilwoman Eichler. And according to the results of the study, which is somewhat thick, and I brought a copy with us, but according to the results of the study, the traffic impacts that we are going to add to Thompson Drive are not beyond what can be handled there by the existing size of the road with center turn lanes and with the 4 lanes in each direction. So with that, TxDOT did not require anything additional, and as you know, they can be pretty conservative sometimes, so I think that's a pretty good indication.
Okay, okay. Just something that I was very concerned about, so, good, thank you.
And I didn't have any other presentation particularly to make tonight because I've made the same presentation half dozen times since August of 2017, either to EIC, P&Z, or to the council, but I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
I'm questioned out. I really have asked. But it's been good to get all the answers.
I think this dead horse has been beaten pretty heavily at this point.
All right, do we have any other questions on the council? Okay, thank you. We have a speaker who'd like to speak to this?
Peggy McKay.
Peggy McKay, 103 West Chester, Kerrville, Texas. My question is, in section E, number 2, it talks about a trail and trailhead improvements. Those are terms used on the river trail. Are we talking about internal to this development, or are we talking about Kerrville's river trail?
The final build out of the River Trail Master Plan does include this property as part of the loop around Nimitz Lake. A big portion of that is going to be a private park at this time. When the city is in place to build that portion of the river trail, they've indicated that they will work with the city for a trailhead at the park that they are dedicating and continuing through the property. And so you can see that on the concept plan along the top of the page. At the top right corner is the public park, which would be a trailhead to start with. Private easement through the private park, or public easement to the private park when that trailhead is constructed at that time.
Then if that's the river trail, the Kerrville's river trail, where does it cross the river?
That is yet to be determined at this point.
But the intent,
Right.
then that goes to 3. The intent is that that river trail will cross the river. There will be some type of bridge or something constructed to come on the other side of the river?
Right, some connection from one side of the lake to the other.
Okay. And then in section L, it mentions the areas that are to be paved will be asphalt or concrete, and that's to prevent the mud and dirt from being removed and tracked onto the public right-of-way. Observing construction in the city, this provision must not be included in our contracts because our roadways have taken a beating with all that lot ending up on the highway, and the stones just deteriorate our roadways, and the expense to repair it is put on the taxpayer. And if we don't have that same provision in all building sites, I would like to see that included so that the citizen doesn't have to incur an extra expense.
Thank you. Do you have any other speakers on this item? Okay, yeah. Mr. Strickey.
Bruce Strickey, 615 Earl Garrett. I think that in the 12 years I've been here, and that's a really short time, but in the 12 years I've been here, we're finally seeing a project come to the city that addresses our river. that offers an opportunity for professional offices and restaurants to be on the water and really take advantage of the jewel that we all know is here. And I can't, I know I wasn't here 3 weeks in early 2006, 2007, when somebody mentioned to me what a shame it was how we don't address the river. And to have a group like the McDonald's companies come and weather through 24 months to get to a point where they're going to ask for zoning on a project that addresses something that everybody, I challenge anybody in this room to tell me that we shouldn't be taking better advantage of the river. And this is a project. I've never in 30 years of development in real estate and building seen the perfect project. But this is awfully close for Kerrville. And I just want to thank the McDonald's companies for the wherewithal.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all.
All right, okay.
And so you can't really see it from the screen, but in the bottom right corner, the land use summary, as Bruce was referring to, those lots closest to the river are going to be for light commercial restaurant type development, correct?
Yes.
Looking onto the river.
All right. Ms. Doniger.
Susan Deininger. I agree. The river is great and we need to be developing it. Now, I wanted to understand, though, we are now going to be developing the river further the trail towards Shriner, and then this one will go in the opposite direction towards Thompson. Is that correct? And then eventually we will have something crossing the river. Okay, we've got all sorts of plans that we have partial understanding of the costs of. And I'm sort of having the sense that this is another high-end housing area, which is fine. But my understanding was that one of the companies involved in this one had been granted the RFP for one of the more economical housing projects. And that when this came along, that was dropped, and this one was picked up. And I just, priorities are, I just would like us to postpone some of our tourist stuff and get dealing with some of our foundational stuff and some of our citizens in our city. I heard Alicia here talking about that area of town, and I am aware of some of the things that have happened there. And just really would like for you folks to $62 billion or million dollars in debt now, plus some. We just really would like some to go for our basics. Thank you.
I can speak to those concerns, Mayor. Well, first of all, Ms. Deininger is correct. Our company was previously chosen for the city's last workforce housing RFP, as well as the one before it, and we did not withdraw from that. We actually do have the capacity to build more than one project at a time. We've got several projects going throughout the state. We did not move forward on that because we never received a response from the previous city council approving that. So I don't know where you got your facts, but they're just flat wrong. Second of all, we're not talking about expanding the river trail tonight. That is not germane to the zoning of this property. What is germane is that we, at our expense, are building a private park along the river, which will include some trail features. We are also, at our expense, donating over an acre of land to the City of Kerrville for its use as a park. And in addition to that, we have donated nearly $20,000 in cash to the City of Kerrville for them to commission the feasibility study to see if that park should be used for additional aquatic recreation and water sports. So I don't think that there's any obligation on the city here tonight, ma'am, by offering to pass this zoning. I think, in fact, we're helping the city by increasing the tax base, taking property that was previously agricultural, previously not even in the city limits, and developing commercial tax base on it, developing multifamily apartments, which are very much for the workforce and will help with housing affordability here, developing housing for seniors, and developing a walkable neighborhood for folks that might have moderate incomes, not have to be able to required to commute to work back and forth every day, and be able to enjoy their neighborhood without having to start up the car and burn gas, which costs money. So with that, I respectfully request that you approve our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a Mr. Broody? Broody?
It is a public hearing, right?
Yeah.
I just need to clarify, George Broody, 1616 Glen Road here in Callowville. I just gotta clarify something that they just tried to discuss, because you guys were on council at the same time, and what we got told, I believe, if you recall, was the Loop 534 project was awarded to the McDonald's, and then we were told by the city manager that they pulled out of that. Now, I don't disagree with their claim, but we got told that they pulled out of it. So I'm guessing that's where she got her information, but I'm not sure. But anyways, just to clarify, that's what we got told. So, I mean, it's irrelevant to this topic, but as we're discussing it, it ought to be cleared up.
I think, Larissa?
Well, I hear you all talking about the river, and that makes me concerned about our drinking water, because, you know, our drinking water is taken from that river, and Dream Team was the ward that worked with the Upper Guadalupe River Authority appointed by Governor Richards to clean it up. And so that's when I called him and asked him, well, do you need some help? Because, you know, we didn't charge anything, did nobody pay us anything to do it. So asked if you needed some help. So I am concerned about the river, because we have to be concerned that that is where our drinking water is being taken from. And so have anybody even considered that? Because I know that in our past, that was our main concern, is keeping it safe where we can get our drinking water. And so I just want to hear somebody talking about
Larissa, let me
that.
say that the city is right now spending a lot of money on a filtration system to make sure that our water is top quality.
Well, we did. I mean, I'm not saying that our city, we do what we're supposed to do pertaining to some of our citizens when it comes down to clean water and stuff like that. That's what we do, and I'm not doubting that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, are you considering what I've heard? I heard no one say anything about the river and what's going to be placed there to protect our water. I know our system, and I know all of that. I work with it. I keep up with it because we've done a lot of work back in the day. So I know that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in this plan that Mr. was talking about. Do we have something in place that will protect our drinking water? Because if we don't, we do. Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion in regard to this item?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Ms. Heitner, second?
Second.
All right.
You need to say
Mr.
it?
Cochran?
That we adopt ordinance number 2019-14.
All right, okay. All in favor, if you'd let me know with a raised hand, okay? All right. And the public hearing is over at 6:38. All right, any other questions? Well, we'll deal with that, okay. Now, we go to consideration possible action on several items. 6A and 6B, we will take together, but we will vote on them separately. So would you read in both of those, both 6A and 6B?
6A, Economic Development Incentive Agreement between Kerrville's Fourth on the River, Inc. and the City of Kerrville, Texas Economic Improvement Corporation. And I do have 3 citizen speakers signed up to speak. 6B, Economic Incentive Agreement between the Kerrville Fourth on the River and the City of Kerrville, Texas, utilizing hotel occupancy tax funds for the renovation of the Arcadia Theater. And I do have 4 citizen speakers signed up.
Okay, all right. Yes, Ms. Choppy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure today to bring to you 2 economic incentive agreements. One that was previously passed just last week by the Kerrville Economic Improvement Corporation, and that is for a total of $600,000 in their EIC, sales tax generated fund. In addition, you have item 6B, which pertains to the use of hot funds. Those hot funds were collected at the time. Kerrville, as you may know, hotel occupancy tax funds. The total hotel occupancy tax rate within Kerrville is 13 cents. That's per dollar that's spent on a hotel room night stay. So if you have a $100 room night, $13 is tacked on. 6 of that goes to the state. $7 of that goes locally for the continued use of putting heads in beds, what we refer to heads in beds, or generating tourism traffic, essentially. That moved from that 6-cent rate to the 7-cent rate some number of years ago, and that 1 cent at the time was generated into a reserve fund, actually for Arcadia use. Some time ago, that moved to the full 7-cent rate, and that was put into a continued hotel reserve fund, but it basically has been encapsulated there, just drawing interest. We've been very fortunate in the recent past that there's been a change of ownership over the last year. That change in ownership is now the Kerrville Fourth on the River, a nonprofit entity that has acquired the property and is looking to renovate the property for roughly just over a $2 million project with some level of contingency. And they've got a whole host of plans and renderings that Ms. Ann Overby would like to further present to you at this time. When she concludes that, I'd be happy to get up and give you additional details about the deal points within the agreement, but she can much more eloquently speak to the great plan that they have put together for the renovation of the historic Arcadia Theater. Ann?
All right.
We're in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, again, my name is Ann Overby. I'm Executive Director for Kerrville's Fourth on the River. I have the board of the Fourth on the River here in the audience with me today. They can wave. I'm going to do, y'all have toured the facility, and I'm just going to do a real quick recap for those who may not know what we've got going on. There you go. Put my glasses back on, I can see the slides. The Arcadia Theater was originally built in 1926 by the same architect that designed the Aztec Theater in San Antonio. It closed primarily as a movie theater in 1988 and has sat empty for 31 long years. A lot of people have tried to reopen the theater in the past 31 years and have been unsuccessful, and we felt that the time is right with what is going on with the city and with downtown to give a good run at it at this time. I'll tell you what we've got going on. As he mentioned earlier, the Arcadia Theater was gifted to us by Stephen Shauna-Huser. The theater had received a lot of updates already. It's got electricity, the HVAC system has been added to it. Most of the basic demolition has been done and the roof has been repaired. The Arcadia rebranding, we're going to rebrand it Arcadia Live. The capital campaign and programming are already in process with the projected date of July 3rd, 2020. What we are proposing is to renovate the upstairs with the addition of 4 suites, 2 bathrooms, and a bar to that mezzanine level. And those are the renderings for that. There's some other space over to the right for future development used for a recording studio. This is a picture of the back if you were standing in the river and looking up at the back of the building from the right-hand side. We are proposing to put 3 glass garage doors to open up the back wall to take advantage of the Guadalupe River, and a deck also as well behind the wall to overlook the river. This is looking at the side of the building. If you just take a slice of it. Right now, if you've been inside the theater, it is a sloped floor. So we are proposing to level out that slope into 3 flat tiered areas using non-fixed seating for what kind of audience that we would need. We can do all chairs, we can do tables and chairs, or we can just do standing room only. But by allowing the 3 fixed seating will allow a lot more variations for the audience. Our campaign revenue is at $2.3. If the EIC grant is approved tonight, that would be the $600,000. We have also received a challenge grant from the Callow Foundation for $500,000 that will begin next year that we have to match in order to receive. If the HOT funds are released tonight, that is the $400,000. We've received 2 pledges already, $100,000 pledges, which takes us to just 75% of our goal, to the $1.7 million. So we still have some outstanding foundation requests that we have presented to, and then the rest of it, the balance, will be a capital campaign that will begin in August. Our proposal to the city is that we will provide 24 big shows of live entertainment in the first year and accelerate that up to 36 by year 3. The multi-purpose uses of this historic space are wide and varied. We can do corporate events by renting out the stage. You can have a corporate office for the day on the stage overlooking the river. You can rent out the suites and have a get-together for your office or for your business up there, or rent the entire floor for a birthday party or a retirement party or a dinner party with tables and chairs and bring in food. It would be beautiful for a rehearsal dinner with the deck on the back and the windows looking over the river. We can have talent shows or recitals. I have a group of men who are dying to have dance nights on the bottom level of the theater, bringing in a small band to play and allow them to dance in there. Holiday parties would be fun, Christmas, Halloween. And also with the purchase of a digital cinema package, we can bring back movies and movie nights into the theater. Our mission is to promote vibrant and diverse entertainment while preserving the history and life of downtown Kerrville. We have partnered and consulting with Paramount Theater of Austin. They are also run by a nonprofit. I'm an old sales rep. If the wheel has already been created, why recreate the wheel? So they are sharing some of their knowledge with us. We have joined the League of Historic American Theaters. Gives us a wealth of knowledge. Every small town across America had one of these theaters. And so we can look and see what other towns are doing, if it's run by a nonprofit, if it's run by the city, if it's run by private industry. So that's a great tool for us to have. We envision proactive programming, drawing on the strength of our board members, and we are so excited about being part of downtown. When we talk about the Arcadia, we don't talk just about Arcadia, we talk about Kerrville. We want people to come to Kerrville, to come shop, come eat, come play, and come see some live entertainment at the theater. I will leave you with this quote. The League of Historic American Theaters publishes an article every year, and the 2018 numbers were entitled "The Power of the Historic Theater." A single historic theater in a small city, and a small city is less than 50,000 people, has the potential to sustain 54 full-time equivalent jobs, create $1.9 million in total expenditures, generate $75,000 in revenue for state and local governments, and add $1 million to household incomes in our community. Be happy to answer any questions if I can. If I can't, my board will pipe in.
All right, okay. Council, questions you have?
Just a short question. It seems like to me the average attendance would be around 250 to 300. Is that your ideal?
Exactly.
Okay.
250. Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
I'm just curious, your goal is to have 24 large events the first year?
Yes, ma'am.
Any of those in place, being talked about?
Well,
it's
we
a
will
lofty
have to
goal.
we will have to receive our construction. Once we get our construction
Okay.
contractor picked
Then
and
you-
started, we will know
Okay.
more exactly of our date. But we are really pretty adamant about wanting to open July 3rd. So we're going to do everything we can. And we will start the programming as soon as we can get to that date. Yeah.
You're going to open July 3rd next week, huh?
No. 20, this is how
Bring
we
a
see
chair.
it. Next summer, July 4th falls on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And so we want to open the Arcadia on a Friday night and have the Robert Earl King party on a Saturday night. So it's all coming together.
Yeah, okay.
I know there are a lot of deal points in making these in this negotiation. So, what is your responsibility as an entity in order to maintain this funding and not have to repay the funding on this?
We can maintain the funding just with the 24 big shows.
Right. So,
Not even in addition to all the other things I mentioned.
but on the deal points, I remember there being. There must be a minimum requirement of shows, a minimum requirement of attendance, building timelines. Is that?
There are performance standards. There's a number of performance standards that are in there. In particular, as Ms. Overby mentioned, year one requires 24 shows, stepping up to 30 in year two, and then 36 shows. There's also attendance standards, and so those attendance standards are estimated at 6,000 the first year, ramping up to 9,000, and that's due to the catalytic effect that we want to see.
So we're saying
encouraged
6,000 people have to be.
initially, yes,
Okay.
spread out across those 24 shows. There may be additional ones that occur with other,
other programming that occurs, but at least at those 24 big shows,
Okay.
We're looking at a minimum of 6,000 attendees across that first year. That's right. And that, again, that's to catalyze activity downtown.
And we're not going to be prepared to fund any shortcomings in the operational side. Correct?
That's correct. Another statute within the agreement is that essentially the organization performs within the black. And that was one of the key elements negotiated within the EIC agreement, but also mirrored within the HOT agreement. So the one way or another, the organization needs to hit those performance standards as well as operate financially positive.
And if not, then that becomes subject of being repaid.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right.
All right, just want to be clear.
Yes, and there's a number of clawback elements, in particular the promissory note and the deed of trust that have been enacted within this agreement.
Okay. All right, that's it for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cochran, any word, any question? Okay. Okay, I understand we have 3 speakers for Section A and 4 for B.
Peggy McKay.
I'd like to see if the other speakers will cover it first.
William Rector.
Dear Honorable Council Members, Honorable Mayor, I'm William Rector of 705 Water Street, and I and my wife are downtown property owners and taxpayers, downtown business owners and employers, and I am president of the Historic Downtown Business Alliance, or HDBA. I stand before you today to strongly endorse the renovation and revitalization of the Arcadia Theater and the use of the EIC and the HOT funds to help accomplish this. The EIC receives its funding from a 1/2 cent sales tax. The EIC does not receive funding from property taxes, and the EIC funds must be utilized to improve the economy and thereby generate more sales tax revenue. Quality of life projects may also receive EIC funding. The Arcadia Revitalization Project certainly fits both of these requirements. Proposed activity in the Arcadia will bring both residents and tourists downtown, increasing foot traffic through downtown businesses and retail shops, thereby improving the economy downtown. Performances in the Arcadia, be it music, lectures, or comedy, will result in more hotel-motel occupancy and increased hotel occupancy tax, or HOT funds, which benefits the entire community. All of Kerrville stands to benefit greatly from this project. Those on the Kerrville Fourth on the River Committee, all need to be commended for their work and their vision for this project. I strongly encourage council to support the utilization of EIC and HOT funds for this worthy project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Linda Bullard.
Hi. My remarks actually go to both A and B, so I haven't divided it up. Linda Bullard, 916 Lazy Lane. I went to the movies at the Arcadia for the last 20 years of its life, and I'm one of probably all Kerrville citizens who really have missed it and are happy to see that it's going to be revitalized, coming alive again. I first got involved with the Arcadia when I learned that it was going to be sold by Haji and to be turned into a bowling alley. And I was part of a citizens group who really didn't want to see that happen to it, and created a website which put forward an alternative vision in the hopes that it could be restored as what it originally was, which was a movie house. And you can check out that website, which has the ideas that that we were advocating for a Hill Country Film Center. I know that that's not the format that has been put forward here, but I'm still hopeful that it might be possible to include film in more than an afterthought way. I was also a member of the League of Historic American Theaters, and I was going to call your attention to the power of the Historic American Theater, which is on our website, but you already did that, and so I don't need to do that. But basically, the idea was to integrate film more fully into your program than just the idea of having one night a week or something. The Arcadia is physically anchored to the heart of town, but if it is to thrive and contribute to a downtown revitalization, it must also be emotionally anchored to the heart of the people and not just as a relic of the past. This is what must now be built through a fair, transparent, and accountable public-private partnership between Kerrville, Fourth on the River, and the people of Kerrville. Toward that end, I would like to make some proposals for several amendments to the agreements with K4 to try to get a better deal in exchange for the taxpayers' gifts, both from the EIC and the hot tax, which actually amount, if you take into account the value of the building itself, to more than half of what it's going to take to open the doors, 55% in fact. So these are the things that I think should have been included in the agreements. One, a clause which guarantees that the Arcadia will never charge rent to the city for city-sponsored events. Two, a clause which protects the city from future financial entanglements to help keep the project afloat. In other words, no bailouts. Three, strengthen the performance benchmarks to get more use out of the space than just 2 nights a month. For example, by requiring some type of ticketed public programming 3 to 4 nights a week. 4, a reversionary clause which states that should there be any change in the use or operation of the Arcadia, is specified in these agreements, that the city will own the building. Not a right of first refusal, but actual ownership. 5, that the city have the right to fill seats on the board of Arcadia Live equivalent to the percentage of our financial contribution to the project. And to Kerrville, Fourth on the River, I'm requesting that you understand yourselves as stewards in the public interest of the great cultural and historical asset which has been placed in your hands debt-free, even though you are a private entity, and that you not give us everything on a silver platter of your own choices, tastes, and preferences, but find a way to truly involve us citizens, not just as purchasers of tickets. Anchor the Arcadia in the community, make us truly a part of it, allow it to be community-driven, and it will be more likely to succeed.
Thank you.
One clarification, several of the things that Mrs. Bullard indicated are in our agreement with K4.
We do, and certainly there's a promissory note and a deed of trust, which means if we decide to terminate it for reasons specified in the agreement.
One of those
we
is
could
change in
foreclose.
use, right?
Pardon?
One of those is change in use. Is that
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's defined use.
Right.
And for foreign standards, so.
I'm not going to quote all of it, but part of that agreement on securing repayment of grant, note, and deed of trust. As a condition for receiving the grant, K4 agrees to sign the note and deed of trust to secure the repayment of the grant when such repayment is required pursuant to Section 2.1, Section 4.6, Article 8, or Section 9.2. And it goes from there. So I think I think the way the agreement has been drawn up by the city attorney is very careful. And if I were one of the K4 people, I would feel wrapped up in that agreement. But okay, do we have any other speakers?
No, sir.
Okay, Ms. McKay. Okay, all right,
We do for item 6B though.
all right. 6B, okay.
William Rector, Bruce Strachey.
Bruce Strachey, 615 Earl Garrett. You know, as an extempore community speaker on a frequent basis, I would always like to pick to go last, and I know George would join me in that. We would both like to go after each other on a regular basis. So if there's some way to pick when we can speak here at a public hearing or an agenda item, I'd like to know what the secret of that is. And so I've never seen that done in a city before. I've seen people give their time to speak to someone else, and I've seen people waive their time, but never to set up a time when they could actually speak. But so George and I would like to get first in line. I'm pretty sure, George, we'd like to follow each other often. Okay, all right. So, excuse me. I guess it's just me. I'd like to always speak last. So, if that's something that's possible, that's super. What I really want to talk about is, and it was referred to earlier, this hollow, empty place that's been in the city for many years, since before I came here 12 years ago. And I've heard people talk about it, and they talk about, as George brought up at the EIC meeting, their memories of movies. And we've seen George Herring talk about it when he writes pieces about downtown, and not only the Arcadia, and I've forgotten the name right now, but there was another theater that was closer to the printing house today that also, and the meaning that meant back in the 40s. My dad tells stories of the newsreels and how that was the way that you got news from Europe and from Japan and all. And one of the things that I love about Kerrville 4th on the River is not only have they proven for years that they can put on a huge show. I think last year we had 8,000, y'all had 8,000 people in the park for the fireworks and REK. And the groups that came were so great because of the rain, they went into the tent and they did their shows ad lib in the tent. And so they've proven that they can put on a show, and they have the vision to look at the future and how do we address what the citizens need here in Kerrville today, because we can't go back to the newsreels. That doesn't work. I've already read the news before I come here to the city council today. I've read all the updates from the Daily Times and the Community Journal and Kerrville, whatever that crazy website is on Facebook, and the New York Times. And so we need to look forward, and they have a vision for how do we bring events to Kerrville that resonate not only with the citizens today but the young people today, and create a venue that will bring the city back downtown and fill that empty void. And this is the center of our city. We're here. We're on, right? It's across the street. It's essentially the same block. This is the place that we need to do something for all of Kerrville. And that allows us to raise the money through sales taxes and hot taxes and property taxes, and raise the awareness to not only our own citizens but to tourists who come into town and want to be a part of this town. And I hear it on a regular basis. And then that allows us to do projects like fixing our streets and addressing neighborhood issues like the traffic in River Hill and the Doyle Community Center meeting that they had the other day that hopefully will lead to a plan that'll go someplace. And these are the kinds of things that not just this council, but the council before you and council before that and council before that have been talking about for years. And so I just want to thank you all for addressing this and waiting until we actually had a proven organization that could pull this off in downtown Kerrville today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bruce.
do we have any other comments or questions from the council?
Are we addressing both of these at the same time, Mayor?
We're addressing both of them, but we vote on them separately.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Hoppy.
Yes, sir.
Just because I did not have quite as much time on the hot tax agreement as I did on the hot money. Are the clawbacks essentially the same on both agreements?
They are essentially the same. I appreciate the question, so I can clarify. Essentially, these two agreements do mirror each other. There's a slight difference in the hot agreement in that because it does utilize those hot funds that are meant to encourage tourism, it does have an extended reporting period of 10 years
versus the 3 years for the hot fees. The performance standards are still 3 years, but it does have an extended period for reporting because we are asking for zip code information for their ticketed events, so that way we can continue to ensure that it is in fact, putting heads in bed. So
it's strictly a reporting issue.
yes, reporting and the city's ability to utilize the facility also does extend across that 10 years.
So the city maintains use of it, whatever it is, 4 times a year?
Four times a year.
6 times a year.
6 times a
Correct.
year.
For 10 years?
That's correct.
But that's only in the,
That's in the hot agreement. That's correct.
which effectively makes it in
Right.
both agreements.
That's right.
Seems kind of strange that you would
Yep.
Not
differentiate
having
those
one.
two when effectively they're going to have to do it for 10 years.
Yeah, so and you're right, and the EIC agreement was a 3-year agreement, and so we wanted to reference that that piece was in there. Essentially, we could have taken it out of the EIC agreement, but it was a point that we had talked to them about, and so we wanted to address it with them because they don't really have any purview on the hot agreement at all, and so we did want to include that as a discussion point and as a deal point with them. But you're correct, it essentially does. They overlap each other, and it's not meant to be 12 uses during that first 3-year time span. It's just 6, but it's for the later of each effective agreement, which for the hot agreement is 10-year time span.
I guess my question is to the board or to Ms. Overby, are they in agreement with all that?
I'll let them speak to that.
Larry Howard, 503 Oakland Hills. That deal point was agreed to. That was agreed to that the hot funds has a longer reporting period. And we extended the use of the city using the facility 6 times a year. And it's spelled out in the agreement the days it can be used, not interfering with other written agreements or concerts that we have in advance. So that was agreed to by our board.
Okay, so y'all are okay with all that?
Yes, sir, we are.
Thank you. That's my questions.
Okay. Before we vote on 6A and then we'll vote on 6B, I'd like to make a few comments. One of the things I like about this project is that it is local citizens who are putting this together. And if you look at the board, every one of these folks have made significant contributions to this town in a variety of other ways. So they're committed to the community. Serving on the Economic Development Corporation, I'm thinking all the time about economic development. But I think this is significant in regard to economic development in a couple of ways. Yes, what it will attract to downtown and to the area, but also folks from out of town that will be here. The fact that you're going to have a Marriott Hotel about a block away, and you're going to be having events here that would draw folks to that. Also, I really do think it is the heart of downtown. And in the agreement that we referred to, Mr. Hayes has done a very careful job of protecting the city, protecting the citizens in regard to this investment. And I always find the term clawback kind of funny, but anyway, there's some things you can claw back. I grew up in San Angelo, and biggest, nicest theater there was the Texas Theater downtown. It's been closed for I don't know how long. They cannot get it going again, and I'm not sure they ever will. This is significant to take a theater that was built in 1926 and bring it back to life for the citizens. And the other thing I'll say, now I didn't go as much as Ms. Bullard did, but Dean and I went to the last movie shown at the Arcadia. It was a great, classic, intellectually stimulating called Throw Mother from the Train. Anyway.
Mama.
All right, Mama? Was it Throw Mama from the Train? Okay, all right. On 6A, do we have a motion?
Again,
Mr. Hoppy?
the recommended motion for both of these items is to authorize the city manager to finalize and execute.
Right, okay, yes, right.
We do have another speaker for 6B.
Okay.
Marty Leonard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overlook you.
No, that's totally fine. I won't take too long. I wanted to just first talk about a
couple things that come to mind about the Arcadia Theater. One of the points that was brought up in the presentation that
You need to tell us where
oh,
you're
I'm sorry,
from.
Marty Leonard, 605 Overhill Drive here in Kerrville.
Thank you.
One of the interesting facts, and not to date you, Mr. Mayor, but when it was closed in 1988, I was just a 1-year-old. So in my experience of living in Kerrville,
Don't bring that up.
sorry about that. In my experience in Kerrville, this has just been an empty building. I remember at one point, I don't remember how, but we got in there and walked around as a kid. I think someone let us in. I don't remember that detail, but
I'm sure that's what happened.
my point is that in my memory, that's just been a closed building. That is the Arcadia Theater. These are great stories. I appreciate hearing them. I can't wait to make more memories. I can't wait to watch a movie there. I would love to watch like The Godfather or something like that there. I think that sounds amazing to do. But to me, that's important for this community is that there is a complete generation and more generation coming up that just know that that's the empty building. And to your point, I think it's amazing that this is so close to happening that this is just a no-brainer to me. The other thing is in my background in being in music, we learned last night through a representative from the Governor Abbott's office that music generates $4.5 billion of economic impact a year in Texas. So to say that this wouldn't have an economic impact on music, musicians make a living primarily on performing. Because of Napster and other things, they don't sell the music as much as they used to. So they perform to make a living. So having performing venues like this, musicians will perform. So I don't see any issue having 24 performances a year, then 36 year 3. That's not going to be a problem because that's going to be an attraction of this downtown area. So I'm supportive of this. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it pass. And I think it's going to be good for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Having made that reference to his age when I was going to the movie theater, I would like the police department to investigate when he broke and entered into the theater. But, okay. Mr. City Manager, there's a reference that Mr. Hoppy made there at the end in terms of final agreement. You want to make a statement about that?
Just normally with these types of agreements, there's some last-minute housekeeping types of things, so it may not be exactly the version that you're looking at, but it'll be substantially the same, if not the same. So you're just authorizing me to execute it. It may not be the exact version that you have.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we authorize city manager to execute 6A and 6B, the economic development incentive agreement, and the economic incentive agreement with Kerrville Fourth on the River.
I'll second
Okay,
it.
just a second. I think we need
have
to
to do it
vote on
separately.
6A and 6B before we do that.
Oh,
And
separate.
then we'll come back to it.
That's what we're doing, isn't it?
You're doing just 6A right now?
Well, I think we need to do both separately, right?
Yeah, we're doing separate. So we need to vote on 6A.
The same wording.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, there's no I mean, if you don't, it's up to you all. If the motion was 6A and 6B, that's
All we're
fine.
doing is authorizing the
To
city
execute a
manager
final
to execute the final agreement.
Same wording.
We don't need to, and I'm saying we need to vote on 6A and 6B before we authorize the city manager to negotiate.
I think it's all the same.
That's what we're doing, is authorizing.
All right.
I'll second it, though.
All right. Okay, then clarify with me. Are we on 6A or 6B?
The motion is for both, 6A
For
and
both.
6B.
Okay, I thought we voted on them separately. That was what I was told.
We were
Yeah,
told that.
Okay, we are going to vote on 6A, then we'll vote on 6B.
Okay, then he needs to restate the motion because he
Okay.
included both.
All right, okay.
Just do
And Ms. Ray, you've got me confused now. What are we voting on?
No,
We're
what
voting
I'm
on
saying
the
is,
agreements.
I think you
agreement?
jumped the gun in terms of the execution. We need to vote on 6A, 6B, then you can make a motion about execution.
Not my understanding.
That wasn't my.
No, let's be clear. So there's two agreements before you all. Whether you take them separately or together, it's up to you all. Let me be clear too. There's no negotiation. We're done negotiating. They both need kind of a final review. Certainly some formatting issues. I noticed again today in the packet. So that they will be substantively the same as you've seen. And how you do your motion tonight is up to y'all.
Okay, I'll ignore what I was told we should do. Let's vote on 6A, 6B together with the understanding about the city manager negotiating a contract. Okay?
Good.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we,
Gary's motion.
Yeah,
would-
Gary's
is
motion.
Gary's motion
okay.
Now we're back to Gary's motion.
Never mind, let's vote
Now
on
we
it.
need a second.
All in favor?
I had
Okay, we
seconded
have a
that.
second.
yeah.
Okay,
Delay.
all in favor? All right, it passes.
Okay.
6-8.
Thank you
Okay.
all for your good
Yes,
work.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Super.
All right, 6C, if you were to read that in.
Construction contract with Ace Company for the Hill Country Drive reconstruction project in the amount of $162,291.15.
Okay. Mr. Hoppy.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council, we've got really one of the first phases of implementation plan of what we talked about earlier today in your workshop session regarding drainage infrastructure. This is one that we were able to heard a lot of comments from the council on wanting to go out and try to attack smaller drainage projects where we can that might be able to make a big impact. Hill Country Drive was one of those pieces that rose up within the ranks of that stormwater master planning effort. There is opportunity here to break that project into phases. Certainly there is some inlet infrastructure as well as some of the downfall infrastructure as it's going towards the river that has some bigger price tags to it. But this project before you today represents actually raising the road, which would be phase one in that overall effort that we think will make a big impact, particularly in the smaller storm systems that come through. Raising that road about 8 inches up will allow for traffic to flow through there much more consistently. It will also provide for a positive drainage going to that outfall structure. So we would recommend that you authorize us to finalize and execute a contract with Ace Company in the amount of $162,291.15 so we can go out and get this work done for the community. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Time frame. Questions?
We are hoping that they'll be able to mobilize probably in the next 6 weeks or so. I think overall construction time was about 6 months. Is that right? Maybe a little less. 90 days. Okay, half that time.
Will the road still be open?
That was my question.
The road will not be open. We're going to have to redirect traffic. We're fortunate that we do have Lehman Drive as well as Coley Drive. And so we are working with, we've already made contact with the hospital, which is one of the largest employers in that area. We'll also be making contact with those other businesses in that area. But there will be some disruption to traffic as it is with any reconstructed road.
How far is that going to extend as far as the road closure?
I believe it's about, come up, Kyle.
Yeah,
I mean, the road's closed anyway every time it rains heavy.
the intersection, but it's not going to.
I'm almost used to that, so.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So you're probably familiar with this. The Wells Fargo on the north side of Hill Country and the little strip center on the other both have dual access points along Hill Country Drive. We're going to close the closest 216 driveways and allow them to still utilize the 16 access, but also Hill Country through the Peterson, I guess we'll call it closer to Peterson driveways. So basically the 250 feet limit is right at those driveways. They'll be able to still utilize Hill Country Drive if needed, but Lehman and Coley will be the detour.
And y'all will be in contact with the strip center there? And
yes, sir.
Making sure that they're aware of it?
The strip center, we've already notified the hospital to make them aware that's a greater impact for them in addition to our public safety personnel.
That's going to be a mess.
Yes, sir.
But you said 90 days.
90 days sounds good,
Would
though.
be. Okay.
Correct. 90 days, so once we execute the contract, contractor mobilizes, then we have 90 days.
And again, you said it won't go all the way down to Coley.
Correct.
It'll be maybe half of.
It won't even go to the corner. It's just going to go to that second driveway away from 16.
Oh, okay.
The major
Oh, okay.
problem
I
is.
think it's important to note too, both of those businesses have direct access onto 16.
16. So, okay. Okay.
We just lose the.
And so, no debt with this. This is money coming out of our general fund.
Yes, ma'am. This is part of our streets maintenance.
Street maintenance. Okay.
All right. Any other questions from council? Do we have anyone signed up to speak to this?
No, sir.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for 6C Hill Country Drive reconstruction?
I'll make a motion that we accept the motion to for the reconstruction of Hill Country Drive.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, if you'd let it be known by the raised hand. Okay. 6D, fee schedule.
I think that was pulled.
Has that been pulled? Okay. All right, and then information discussion, financial update. Ms. Dozier?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to quickly go through a financial update for the month ended May 31st. A lot of this is a very similar story to what you've been hearing for the last few months, but I'll go through it quickly with you. So on the general fund side, the general fund has recorded revenue of $21 million compared to expense of $16.6 million through the end of May. That's typical because we've already received most of our property taxes for the year. Looking at the revenues in particular, similar story to what you've heard in previous months. On the property tax side, we're real close to being right on budget there, and strong performance on the sales tax side continues. So year to date through May, sales tax is up 4.8% compared to the previous year, and it's better than budget as well. And we've seen strong increases in some of our largest categories, such as retail and food service. So that's very encouraging. On the expenditure side, we're tracking very close to budget on the general fund side. When we get to the water fund, things are a little bit different. So we've been significantly impacted this year by the weather. So we have received revenues of $7.3 million compared to expenditures of $8.1 million. Looking at the revenues in particular, we've had record rainfall, in October, as you know, but that really has continued. So year to date through May, we're 22 inches higher on our rainfall compared to the previous year. The aquifer is up 23 feet in the last 6 months, and that has significantly impacted our consumption and our sales. So consumption's down 15%. Water sales are very volatile and weather dependent, but we are getting pretty far into our year, and it's still raining. So I have a spring that has sprung up in my backyard that I've never had before, so it's kind of crazy. But anyway, so we are proactively monitoring our expenditures, but it looks like our revenues are not going to hit budget for the year. On the sewer side, we're seeing the same sort of thing. Our residential sewer averaging is down just because water consumption is down, and we're projecting a shortfall there. On the expenditure side, a little bit of good news there. We are trending better than budget. We've seen better than expected chemical and maintenance costs, and a little bit of staffing vacancy costs as well. Moving on to the other funds, looking at the Development Services Fund. Year to date, they've received revenues of $783,000 compared to expenditures of $885,000. Now, as we've talked about before, those expenditures do include transfers for their new software and also the development code rewrite that are significant expenditures there. On the golf fund, golf has also been significantly impacted by the weather. They've received revenues of $543,000 compared to expenditures of $583,000. Finally, on the hotel occupancy fund, we continue to see strong results there. So revenues of $893,000 compared to expenditures of $865,000. So we continue to see strong performance from our hotels. And then something new for y'all. So I'd like to thank Bruce Strachey and the Kerrville Board of Realtors that have worked to get us some updated real estate statistics, and I think there's some interesting information here. So this graph shows us home sales by price range, and it's interesting to see that 100 to 300,000 price range is really where the majority of our home sales are taking place. And then down below, you'll see some year-to-date statistics. You'll see that median and average price up, which is to be expected. A little bit down on number of home sites sold, but total volume dollar-wise is up, and average days on the market is down. So we really appreciate
updated information. I think it's really useful to see things here.
I mean, are those run just inside the city limits?
I'm sorry?
Is that just inside the city?
It is,
It's a Kerrville mailing
Zip
address on
code.
less than 5 acres, single family detached.
So it's a little bit skewed, it's not just,
Well, we talked about that, we thought that in representing the area.
no, I just want to make sure I know what I'm looking at.
We can change it if the council would prefer.
No, I-
Providing that through the government affairs committee, so.
I just wanted to know what I was looking at.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And we also have our Development Services Department working on some updated statistics for you as well. They'll be presenting next month with an update on their progress on projects, and we'll have some updated statistics for you at that time. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Clarification,
Yes.
like Mr. Cochran asked, in regard to home sales, that is Kerrville addresses in single-family units.
This
Less than
particular
5
data
acres.
is Kerrville, the house itself has a Kerrville mailing address.
Okay.
So it identifies as a Kerrville house.
Yeah.
But it's not within necessarily the city limits.
Oh,
Could be the county.
Okay, it's got a Kerrville mailing address. It's a single-family detached home. It's not a condominium. It's not a townhome. It's not a duplex. And it's on less than 5 acres.
Okay.
Okay, and we did that to try and keep the data consistent with typical home sales. And this is coming from the board through the Government Affairs Committee. If the city would like just within the city limits, it would be reasonably easy to modify the data and do it that way. It's all about what you think would best represent the
As long as I know
area.
what I'm looking at, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is board appointments, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session under section 551.074.
All right, there's a
On this
motion
matter.
to go into executive session to deal with Planning and Zoning Commission issue.
I second that.
Okay, we've got a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. (1:45) and the council is back in session, and I await hearing a motion on the Planning and Zoning Commission appointment.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we appoint as an alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Timothy Welsh.
Timothy Welch, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, let it be known by the raised hand. Okay. Now let me get through to my last page here. Okay. Then we are adjourned.